Psalms 1, verses 1 through 3. And I'll be reading from the New King James Version. And it reads, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper." There are many definitions for success out there in the world, and there are many paths to success according to the world. For some, it's by any means necessary, and that means whatever I need to do will be done. Whoever needs to be stepped on is going to have footprints all up and down their back. And whoever needs to be left behind will get left. Whoever needs to be climbed over is going to be turned into a ladder. Anyone in my way will be run over, mowed down, and totally crushed if that's what's needed. It's all about me. Numero uno. Right? That's what the world says. That's how the world acts, and that's what the world does. But for Christians, whether we do it well or not very well at all, by any means necessary, is something very different. For Christians, it means fruit of the Spirit all the way to success. You know the fruit of the Spirit, right? Love, peace, joy, patience, and all those. For Christians, we are to pray for those in our way, right? Pray for your enemies. We're all to put others before us. And we are to love everyone around us. This is God's program for servants. This is God's process for saints. By any means necessary, for Christians, it is whatever God says do, that's what will be done. So as we encounter our text today, consider the thought, GPS, God's plan for success. Look at the text. Right there in the first verse, it starts out, "Blessed is the man." And so let's stop right there. So blessed is the man. Now, we all look for, want, and desire grace. We desire mercy, and we desire favor from God, right? We want God to smile on us. We want him to show his countenance upon our face, and we want him to bless us. We can go all day about blessings, right? Faith is awesome. But blessings don't have to be things you can't see or touch. Blessings can be physical, things we can hold, things we can drive, things we can live in, and oh yeah, stuff we can put in the bank. Yeah, we like blessings. We like blessings most of all. And I'm not talking about y'all in particular, just Christianity on a whole, right? On average. Let's face it, there's nothing that can grow your faith quicker than God blessing you with extra cash for food when you thought you weren't gonna eat yet another day. But this blessed in our text it's a little different. It's a little different. It's like when you're speaking to someone about what has transpired in your life, and all they can do is look at you and say, man, you are truly blessed. That's what this is here in our text. Except the response is coming from God. But in response to what? What would it take for God to look at you, all of you here, look at you and say, you, Frida, you, Renee, you, James, everyone here, you are blessed. What would it take? Look at the text. It's right there in the text. Blessed is the man, still in verse 1, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. Now, when I read this, and God said, this is your next sermon, I said, wait, all I have to do is not do something? I'm good at not doing stuff. Sign me up to be blessed. That's just how it is. That's what popped into my head. I don't even know why I'm sharing that, but when God says you're blessed, it's because of obedience. That's what's happening in the text. Look, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. In other words, don't walk in the counsel of the ungodly, and God will call you blessed. Let's break it down a little bit further. Who? That's the blessed one. That's you, that's me, that's him, that's her. Walks. That means live your life. Not in the counsel. Not in the counsel of means does not allow the advice of. And then we have the ungodly. These are those who reject God and have no hope. They have no peace. And quite honestly, it makes no sense to follow advice from someone with no peace and is hopeless. Turmoil, frustration, and pain. That's all they know, and all they can produce. So if we read that first part in the Jerry translation, in the AP translation, it reads, blessed is the man who does not live life following the advice of people who have no hope, no peace, and have rejected God. But wait, there's more for you to not do. Look at the text. It says, nor stand in the path of sinners. This stand is the same stand used in Ephesians 6:11, where it says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. What is the path of sinners? Well, I'll tell you right away that it's not the narrow way. That's the path for believers. This path is that broad path. This path leads to destruction. This path is the path to death. Separation from God, that eternal death. Don't make your base of operations on this path. Don't make your stand here. And don't try to be successful on this path. There's more to verse 1. Still looking at verse 1. Look at it. Nor sits in the seat of the scornful. Now, who are the scornful? The scornful do the exact opposite of Romans 12:3, which tells us to not think more highly of ourselves than we ought to think. The scornful are people who ridicule and mock any and everyone they feel is lesser than they are. They use whatever authority or privilege at their disposal to further subjugate whoever they can. So if you're ever in a church meeting, then Sister Jane Doe says, she asked the questions, what are we going to do about these homeless people that keep showing up in here? One of them sat right next to me at the last service, and I could hardly breathe. Y'all remember Harlem Nights when Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor put the detective in the vault? They told him to take short breaths. That's what Sister Jane Doe was doing because she couldn't breathe. That's the seat. That is the seat of the scornful. When John Doe, no relation to Jane Doe, who has never been a part of any ministry, tells a deacon of the church, I've been here for 20 years. Who are you to tell me? That's that seat. That's the seat of the scornful. Basically what I'm saying is the seat of the scornful is an attitude. It's not an actual seat. It's not a physical chair at a table or in a place in a building where the scornful meet to be scornful. And it could be a defense mechanism and unknowingly developed with the purpose of preventing their flaws from being seen. We don't have much control over our defense mechanism, but they are a result of something lacking in our lives. And in the case of the scornful, that thing that's lacking is God's word. The lack of reading it, understanding it, or applying it. And let me tell you also that none of this is saying that you can't be around sinners, the scornful, or the ungodly. They are among the sick that need the hospital, which is the church. All right? The Bible's never going to go against itself. Jesus was ridiculed for sitting with tax collectors and the like, saying that, why is he with these sinners? So the Bible's not going to turn around and because he didn't sin, right? Look at verse 2. God is literally answering all your questions right in these verses. Questions like, well, how do we know what to do, and how do we keep from being scornful? How do we keep from becoming scornful? It's right there in verse 2. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law, and in the Lord's law, he meditates day and night. the blessed ones are studying that thing. They're in God's word day and night. What that says to me is devotional time, an actual devotional study book of some kind, the daily bread, or just, Bible reading, a Bible reading plan that you come up with on your own. You might decide to start in Proverbs and make a choice where to go after that when you're done. But our text says that the blessed ones delight in the law of the Lord. They delight in God's word. Not the preaching of it, not the fact that they know it, that they can retain it and recite it everywhere they go. They delight in God's word. So they meditate on it day and night. That is, they ponder it, they think about it. It's always on their mind. They're not spitting it out so people can think how smart they are or how religious they are. They're not, showing off their piety. I believe the blessed man is blessed because there was trust placed in the process. That process of study, learn, apply, repeat. Study, learn, apply, repeat. Then soon you're an example of 2 Timothy 2:15. One who has studied God's word, diligently and earnestly applying yourself in service to God as a workman and correctly handling the word of truth so that you can stand before God unashamed on the day of judgment. The study of God's word enables the detection of ungodly advice. It empowers you to discard that advice instantly without any concern of should I or shouldn't I. Because of God's word, the path of sinners is a place you know you should not be, don't want to be, and because you have accepted Christ, it is a place you will never be. Trust the process, and you too will delight in God's word. You too will delight in the law of the Lord. As you do and grow closer to the Lord, the less potential for scornfulness there will be. Why? Because you will develop an attitude and a mindset of praise and of worship, a mindset of gratefulness that you even exist, and that one such as our Father in heaven loves you, sent his Son Jesus Christ to make sure you have hope, salvation, and life eternal despite your existence. How can you become scornful knowing all of this, applying this to your life and living it out for the whole world to see? You can't. And that, my friends, make you successful in God's eyes. Once you're on your way to this destination, you've correctly started the GPS, God's plan for success. Blessed is the destination. Blessed is the destination, but what does that look like? You know how Google, when you use Google Maps, sometimes it gives you a picture of where you should end up. That's verse 3. So let's look at verse 3. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. This blessed person this blessed one who follows and considers the words of God, meditates on it, is like a tree planted by the rivers of water. They are spiritually healthy, vibrant, productive, and successful because they delight in an abundant access to the water, which is God's word. If their life, in their life, the inspired word becomes the illustrated word. He or she applies, obeys, and lives out the truths found in God's word. Blessed people bear the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. That's Galatians 5:22. That's where you can find that. Once you have reached this destination, however long it took you to get here, you have correctly operated your GPS. God's plan for success. But don't cut it off, because there's more for you. When Jesus came and he lived his life here on earth, he knew he was going to the cross. That's where the GPS was taking him, right to the cross. He didn't choose a different path. He didn't click on another way. He followed the GPS right to the cross. And it looked like, because he was on the cross, that it was over. That what he came to do would not be prosperous. The only thing is, what he came to do wasn't for himself. It was for us. And we are sitting here today because Jesus was successful. Everything he did was prosperous. And everything for you, if you obey God's word, if you read it, study it, meditate on it, apply it to your life, you will be successful. The GPS, God's plan for success, will lead you to that destination. Blessed. Thank you. God bless you.